All right. So what we want to do is continue from where we stopped. Continue from where we stopped. All right. So in the last lecture, I was telling you people about the absolute cell reference and relative cell reference. So um I told you that if you need to multiply 2 by the values here and you want the 2 to remain fixed so that it doesn't change to the next cell, all you need to do is make sure that when you reference this cell in your formula, it has to be an absolute cell reference. So okay, let me mute people so that we don't, I don't want to mute, but let me okay, everybody is mute now. All right. So let me go back. So I was saying that if you need to fish this particular cell, you need to make sure that it is in an absolute cell reference situation so that the formula does not change. I remember I let me just clear this. And what we did was, suppose you want to multiply this with this, yeah, it will give you 2. Then if you apply the formula downward, it will give you 0 because Xl is multiplying. Now that we are here, Xl is multiplying this with this and this with this, so that's why we are getting 0. So when a cell is empty, it is an automatic 0. So if we put 2 here, it will give us 4. If we put 7 here, it will give us 21. If we put 4 here, it will give us 16. Yeah, 5 here, it will give us 25. But like I said, if you need to multiply this, you want to multiply this alone, then with everything here one by one, so you need to change this to absolute cell reference. So how you do that is, I told you, you assign in your formula, you assign a dollar sign to the back and the front of the alphabet. So behind 0, you see, just put your dollar sign, and after 0, put your dollar sign. I also told you that the fastest way to do this is to just let me delete the dollar sign. The fastest way to do this is to put your cursor behind the alphabet, then press F4 on your system, F4. So that will automatically assign the dollar signs where necessary, so you don't need to type them out, and that is absolute cell reference. So when we now apply this formula downward, we see the results. So that's it by with absolute cell reference and relative cell reference. Although as we proceed, we'll see situations where we need to change our formulas to maybe relative or absolute cell reference. But this is just a preamble of just an explanation of what absolute cell reference and relative cell reference does. Now, in our last class, we did calculate the profit for these sellers. So let me just put this here: sellers and profit. So we said that okay, from our calculation, we realized that Olamide has the highest profit. So, and we use Sumif to get this. Let me just see if something is going on in the group chat. How are this? I don't understand. Are they not supposed to join directly? Okay. So back to our lecture. Now, okay, now our outline. So I forgot to include something here the other day. It is the if function. There's something called if itself. So we'll talk about if as well. Maybe after let me just include if somewhere there. So I can insert a new row and type if. There is if, there is ifs. So what these two functions, what they do is, you can say if Lagos is in Nigeria, okay, say, or if the weather in Lagos is over 30 degree, you can say, okay, the weather is hot. Why is this thing happening? I don't understand. Why are they requesting? They are supposed to join up straight. So that's what the if does. And just like the sum if and sum ifs, the ifs, the one with s means when you have two criteria. So, okay, if Lagos is okay, or let me say, if profit is greater than 50% and it is in USA, say this. If profit is greater than 60% and it is in Canada, say this. So that's just the idea behind the if. Now we use if today. So now back to where we stopped on last week Friday. We use the sum if to calculate this. Remember, we changed the necessary cell range to absolute cell reference with the dollar sign. Now there is a faster way, or not faster, a better way to achieve um this same result. We use sum if, then we reference the cells by pointing out the F2 to F whatever and so on. But there's a way to make our code easier. Now when you look at this code, well, for people who have been using Excel for quite some time, they might understand, but for newbies, they might find this a little bit well, maybe somehow it's too complex or whatever it is. So now to simplify our code, the, what we can do is we can turn um our data range, we can turn it to a table. So everything here till the last one, we can turn everything to a table. So when we turn a data set to a table, it makes our formula easier and more readable. For instance, if you click this cell, I'm very, very sure, aside the person that wrote this formula or people that, yeah, it might just be too difficult for a layman, somebody outside, or somebody who was not there when you recorded the, or when you type the formula, to understand what this formula does. Why I asked you people to send me this thing was, I don't know. I was expecting, but people join directly, so why are they still asking for permission? Okay, so I was telling you that this formula is not readable for layman, people outside Excel. Let's say your manager does not know how to, you know, use Excel at all. So what we can do is we can turn this to a table. What you see here is not really a table. This is just a row and column stuff. So this is just a relational database. Now we can turn this to a table. How to turn a data set to a table? You just click anywhere within the range, within your data set, anywhere at all. Then press Ctrl T. Let me type it here. Ctrl T. So press Ctrl T, and when you click anywhere in the table, press Ctrl T. Now, what this will do is, you see it has automatically highlighted your entire um, data set. So it will automatically dictate the range itself. Then you have make sure you, whether you check this or not depends on whether you truly have headers or not. So in this case we have headlines, so yes, we have to check this. If you do not check this, what will happen is that Excel will now turn your table. This one will now be column 1, column 2, column 3 and so on. But since our table has headers, the header will now be just month, product and so on. So yeah, now you click OK, and you see the color has changed, the design and everything. This thing comes with table turning. Okay. um okay, so now we've turned this thing to a table. You can always rename your table. It's good to rename tables. Normally it will come with table 1, table 2, depending on the numbers of table you already have in your in your workbook. But since this is the first table, that's why it's showing table 1. So you can just rename the table to, let's just call it sales. Let's call it sales. So it's always good to rename your table, especially when you have more than one tables in your workbook. So I've renamed the table to sales. Now when we want to reference, we'll perform the same Sumif calculation now, and you will see how easy it is to reference to column, the cell and everything using the table function. Now let's go ahead and insert, okay, let's just do it here. No, I don't want to go too far away, so let's insert a column in between. So now we want to get the same thing what we did. We want to calculate Wizkid sales, or profit rather, then Davido, Olamide and Burna Boy. But this time around, we'll not type F2 to F172 like we did. So we just reference it through table. Now let's go ahead and type our sum. If remember, whenever you want to type a formula, you start with equal to sign. Then you type your sum if. So you can open your parentheses, that's brackets. Now I told you that whenever you are typing a formula, there's a little guy down there that is always giving you directions. This is what you should do next, and so range is where you want your criteria to be found. Remember, our criteria is whiskey for this particular one. So meaning that the range is the seller's column. So this is the range where you want whiskey to be found. All right, so now our range is sellers, but instead of typing F2 to F whatever, what you do is reference to the table name, which is sales. So just type sales. When you type sales, then you can now open the sales. In order to see all the headings, you type the square brackets. Remember, not a square bracket, not the normal bracket, the square bracket. Now when you type the square bracket, you can see all your what do they call it, the headings. So the month, product, prices, everything we have here now, you have it here. So then you can just go ahead and click your sellers. When you click it, you press tab. Please don't press enter, you press tab. Tab is at the left side if you are using Windows. I don't know where it is if you are using Mac. So you press tab, then you close it with um, square bracket again. Please don't use the round one, the square bracket. Now when you've closed it, now you see the whole thing is highlighted already. So if you notice, the entire seller range has been highlighted. Then go back to your formula, then now press comma, then our criteria is whiskey. Remember, I told you it is a bad approach to type whiskey. I told you in the last lecture, I will repeat it again. It is a very, very bad approach to type whiskey. So make sure you have brought out your criteria out in the unique values. Remember, we brought these things out using the unique function. So if you missed the last lecture and you did not watch the video on the YouTube, you really need to go back so you don't get lost in what we are doing now. So you type whiskey, you select whiskey rather, which is our criteria, then comma, then the sum range. Of course, our sum range now is profit. So instead of typing H2 to H172, I think, again, just reference to the profit column. Okay. So just reference to the profit column using the sales the table, the sales table rather. So you type sales again. Let me spread this. So you type sales. So then open sales in order to see the headings, square brackets. Now this time around, we want to, the sum range is profit. So remember, you cannot enter, you cannot click enter, you cannot double click. What you press is tab. Otherwise, you can type your profits just like that. Okay? Anyone will do. So it's either you type the profit out or you press tab. But it's always good to press tab because you might mistake the exact word when you are typing it. So just press the tab, then close it with the square bracket. So then you now close the entire formula with the normal bracket sign. Yes. Now the beauty of this, the beauty of using table instead of referencing cell numbers is that you don't need to do the absolute cell reference, relative cell reference. When we apply the same formula to Davido, Olamide, Burna Boy, the formula will just be sellers. So it will not go outside the range like it would if we had used relative cell reference. So press enter. Then you see we have the same value. Now you can just easily drag down. See we have the same value for both sides. So we used the table here, we used the normal cell reference here. So now let me just show you the formulas to see the difference. So the one we did last week was this is so you can see the dollar sign and everything. The one we did just now is this. So you can always tell that okay, you went to the sellers table to look for L2, which is whiskey, then you sum the profit. So this is a little bit readable compared to what we did here. So it's always good to change your data set to table. Now let me show you one beauty of table again is so if you change this to now when you convert your data set to a table, you can actually filter through this drop down here. You can filter, so you can deselect all, then show for let's say January. So when you show for January, you see you filtered the whole thing. So you can filter product. Okay, you want to see the product for camera only. So you are seeing camera for January only. Then you want to see, yeah, so basically you can just filter when you turn to the table. But now just go back to everything. And, yeah. So I was going to show you this. I wanted to show you this. The good thing about table, why I like table particularly is that. So let's say we are now in um we want to add new sales. So let's say it is December. You see, it will just automatically add this to the table range. I don't know if you understand or get what I'm trying to say. This now whatever we put here, let's say this is camera, then the cost price is 344, the sales price is 504, and so on. So let's put, oh, before we do that, let's do something so that we'll be sure it works. Let's just say we'll do this for whiskey. So let's just type this thing here that whiskey sales is 2015.1. So let's just type this here. Now let's go and add another sales. Let's go and assume that whiskey made another sales, which is camera, which is 344, yeah, then 502, then 50.2. I just want to be consistent with the figure they have there. Then let's say it's whiskey and not Olamide now. We have whiskey. Then let's say he made it in Nigeria. Nigeria. Then let's say it is 158. So let's just leave the percentage, it does not matter. So if you can see that the value for whiskey has changed, because this is what we had before 2015, now it has changed. So this is the beauty of table. This is the beauty of table. It will always go ahead and change. So why this one changed is because, okay, this one automatically dictates 173 too. Initially it was 172, but okay, it automatically dictates 173. That's because we've actually changed it to table as well. If we did not, it would not have worked. So this is the beauty of table. You can always go ahead and add more sales, and it will reflect on your formula here. So let's go ahead with, now we've done sum if. Sum if, remember I told you sum if is, we've done sum if. Now sum ifs is for two criteria. Remember what we did here is we did this based on whiskey, which is one or the sellers rather, which is one criteria. So if you want to know for whiskey in Nigeria, so that's two criteria you want to evaluate before summing the profit. So we quickly go ahead and do that. It's almost the same thing, but this time around, instead of having one criteria, you're having two, and the syntax is a little bit different, but then it's still straightforward. So let me get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's just maintain this place. So we want to do the sum if again. So I use the unique function to bring out the unique sellers. So unique, then this time around, the last one we did, let me show you. The last one we did, I think we referenced to the F2, we said unique F2 to F173 where we have our sellers. So now instead of F2 to F73, we can just say okay equal to unique. Since this data set is now table, we can say sales, then square brackets, sellers, tab, close bracket, close bracket. So still the same thing. So the difference between this formula and this formula is just that one is stable, one is not stable. So now what we want to do is look for, let's just look for their sales in Nigeria. Let's look for their sales in Nigeria. So I will just type Nigeria here. Now we have two criteria: Wizkid sales in Nigeria, Davido sales in Nigeria, Olamide sales in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So what we'll do is go back to our formula equal to sum if, but this time around we are using sum ifs meaning more than one. So we open it. Now this one starts with the sum range. The ordinary sum starts with range, then criteria, but this one starts with sum range. That is, you first highlight where you want to sum, in this case which is the profit. So just to know the difference, because it's not like I cram the difference in my head as well. All I do is whenever I type the formula, I just listen to what this guy says. Okay, the first thing is my sum range. So my sum range in this case, if we wanted to use the old style, we would say h h2, yeah, to h173 to h173. So that's highlighting everything. But instead of doing that, especially when you don't know the cell numbers of it, instead of doing that, so just go to sales, square bracket, profits, then close square brackets, then that we've highlighted the profits column. Then the next one is criteria range 1. That is the first criteria, which is whiskey, or it could be Nigeria. But in this, let's go with sellers first. So the sellers will be our first criteria. You can actually use anyone as first or second. It does not matter which one is first or second. So criteria range 1 is where we want whiskey and the sellers to be found. That is our sellers column. So again, you now go to sales, open with square brackets. You see, I'm particular about mentioning that square bracket so that you remember. Square bracket, then scroll down to sellers, yeah, press tab, close it. That's all, comma. So instead of saying H2, F2 to whatever, so you just select them with this. Then you don't need to do absolute cell reference or relative cell reference. This thing is just absolute on its own and relative at the same time. So then now criteria 1. Remember your criteria 1 must come from where you select criteria range 1. So now we've gone to sellers. We cannot go ahead and say the criteria 1 is Nigeria. So it means we are saying go and find Nigerians in sellers, so it will not work that way. So since you've selected criteria sellers at your range 1, then the criteria should come from that range. So now you select whiskey, then say comma, then criteria range 2. So criteria range 2 is where we want Nigerian to be found, in this case, which is location. So again, you type sales, open with square bracket, go to location tab, close with square bracket. Then we selected our location, that's criteria range 2. Then we now select the criteria itself, which is Nigeria. Okay, let me just go ahead, I will explain later. So that's all. Now we can have more than 2 criteria. You see, criteria range 3, criteria so on and so forth. You can have as many criteria as you want actually. So it is endless, so to say. Or I've not exhausted the criteria, so I don't know if it's endless, but I've not exhausted it before. So now you can now close the entire formula with the normal bracket and palm. So let's see. So now if we apply this formula, I want to show you something. There will be an error in this formula when we apply it, and I'll tell you why. So let's apply. You see this one is showing 0. Why it is showing 0 is because one of these, our reference, is like when the Nigerian criteria is, you remember we did not use it as thing, we just selected it and we did not make it absolute. So let's go back to the formula and understand it. So we are saying some profit if whiskey is in sellers and MCs, which is Nigeria, is in location. So this works very well for whiskey. Let's go to Davido and examine the formula. Some profit if L8, which is Davido, is in sellers. So if Davido is anywhere, you see Davido in sellers, and you see M7. Now, what is M7? M7 is not Nigeria anymore. M7 has shifted to where we have whiskey profits. So what we should have done with the first formula before dragging it down is to make sure that where we put Nigeria is fixed. So it's instead of relative. Remember when it is naked, I like to use the word naked for this thing because it does not have any $ behind or beside. So when it is naked, when your reference is naked like this, it is relative cell reference. It means it will continue to shift as you shift the formula. If we shift it till the last row, it will continue to shift. So if you want it to remain stagnant, so just make sure you put the $, which is the shortcut is F4. Now let's go back to our formula and apply it again. So now we've seen their sales. Now okay, whiskey is doing well in Nigeria. Olamide is not doing bad. Burna Boy is doing bad. Davido is not performing at all. Then you can see that normally Olamide has higher sales than whiskey generally. But in Nigeria, whiskey is far ahead of Olamide. So if you are the manager, you might want to, okay, whiskey is doing well in Nigeria, maybe we should let him focus in Nigeria or somewhere like that. So this is the difference between the Sumif and the Sumifs. So remember what we are doing is I'm still introducing these topics to you. Again, when we now work on real data sets like the COVID-19 or a company's data set, we'll find data set to work on. Then we use these things more and more. Or maybe not, but I'm just introducing you to the topic, so we'll still use them more and more, and hopefully when you keep on seeing the videos you will get it better. So now let's move on to count, or the ifs rather. The ifs, I forgot to mention in the last lecture, the if. Let's just go ahead without wasting much of our times. So let's go ahead and say, okay, what the if function does is we can say if whiskey sales is greater than 2,000, say well done. If Davido sales is greater than, or if the seller sales is greater than 1,000, says well done. If it's greater than 2000, say wow. If it's greater than 3000, say wow, 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 whatever it is. So that's what the if and ifs function does. So if you want to do more than one um output, you use the ifs. You use this one. So if you want to do just one, okay, if the sales or profit is greater than 2000, say wow. Otherwise, say put more effort. Then you use if. That's just one criteria. But you want you want more than one output. If the sales is between 1000 and 2000 or 15, say good. If it is between 15 and 2000, say better. If it is so like that, like that, like that. So that's the difference between if and if. The ifs and if is just the difference is just the same thing with the difference between some if and some ifs. So let's go ahead and use this so that you can see. So let's go ahead and say, remember anything formula you start with the equal to sign and you type if. So we are going to do one first. The first one is if. So if, now logical test means, okay, the little guy is saying logical test. So so the logical test is if whiskey, which is this. So if L2 is, sorry, if this, sorry, it should be M2, is greater than, I hope you guys know the difference between greater than, less than, the sign. That's basic mathematics. So if M2 is greater than, let's use 1000, comma, that's the logical test. So it's now saying value if true. So if this thing is true, what should Excel say? So you can say, now if you want to type string, they call it string or text. That's data type. I told you about data type in the last lecture. So when you are typing alphabet, they call it string. String as in string. So in Excel, in Python, all those programming language, they call it string. So when you are typing string, it has to be in quote, because Excel does not know, Excel does not have an inbuilt function of whatever you want to type next. So to tell Excel that these words are mine, not yours, put it in string. So Excel will know, okay, whatever is happening here is not my word, is this guy saying it. So if it is above 1000, say not bad. So you have to give a return value if it is false. So you know you are saying if this thing is greater than 1000, say not bad. Then if it is not greater than 1000, what should Excel say? So in this case, you don't need to write any logical test again. So if it is not greater than 1000, it means it is either 1000 or lesser than 1000. So let's say, oh, very bad. Sorry, very bad. Oh, I typed this wrong. So very, what am I doing? Sorry, cancel. Very bad. Yeah. So you close it with a quote as well. Then you can now close the whole formula. Then bam. You see, it's saying not bad because it is greater than 1000. Okay, let's go ahead and just use 15. Let's go ahead and use 15 instead of, because all the sales are greater than 1000. So let's use 15. So let's apply the whole formula and see. We're saying, oh, whiskey is not bad. Davido is okay, it's less than 15. Oh, very bad. Not bad, very bad. So that's what if does. So it will return a specific test for you. It is if is very, very complex. You can go to any length with if. So maybe when we are doing real project, we'll go deeper, deeper, and deeper. There's something called nested if. So nested if is like you keep on typing if and if and if and if. So it's quite long. If I show you one formula I did like that with if, you might just want to end the lecture straight away, but we'll get there. So now let's use ifs to have um more than two results. This one is, well, you might be saying this is 2 because we have very bad and not bad. It is 1. Whenever you use if, this is the result we want for not bad. So you have value if true, then you have value if not true. But when we use the ifs, we have value if true, then we have another if, another logical test rather, then we have another value for it. Then we can have 10 logical tests with a corresponding value. Then ultimately we now have, if all the values, if all the logical test is not met, then return one thing. So that's what we're doing next with the ifs. I don't know if that is straightforward. So let's go ahead and do ifs. So again, you continue with your equal to sign. So let's go ahead now and say if sales is, if profits, which is this, sorry. So you have to type if, then open the brackets. So logical, we are using ifs now. So ifs. So you see, it's now saying logical test 1 instead of logical test, because if is expecting you to write more than one logical test. So if logical test 1, which is this, if this is greater than, now you can do another thing, greater than or equal to, sorry, greater than or equal to. So if this is greater than or equal to, let's start with 1000 this time around. Then let's say poor, sorry, let's say poor, then comma, then the logical test 2. So which is M2 again. M2 is greater than or equal to let's say 1 2 1 2 or 1 4. Let's just use 1 4. Then say bad. Okay, then logical test 3. If, no, there's no need for if again. So M2 is greater than or equal to, let's use 1 8 now. 1 8. Let me just spread it so that you can see. So then you say if M2 is greater than or equal to 1 8, then say fair. Let's just say fair. Sorry. Remember your words, your value, if true, has to be in quotes. It is very, very important. It has to be in quotes, otherwise your formula will show error and you just. So logical test 4. M2 is greater than or equal to 2002. I'm just using 400 as the difference. So say well done. Yeah, well done. So you can now close the thing. So we can see for, okay, it's showing 4. That should not be. Something is wrong with our formula. Something is wrong. Okay. Oh, so we should use less than. This the usage of greater than, equal to, and less than is a little bit ambiguous. When I say ambiguous, it can be confusing for Excel sometimes. You know what we did here is that we are saying if this is greater than 1000, in which, yeah, it is greater than 1000. So this is the only thing Excel remembers. So Excel was like, the first criteria is true, so it returned poor. So what we should have done is less than or equal to. I don't know if you guys got me. What happened here is that the first logical test we did is if M2, which is the profit, is greater than 1000, return poor. So If this thing is true itself, Excel will not bother to go ahead and check this for you, since the first one is true. And remember, this one is greater than 1, so we should have used less instead of greater than. So yeah, it's a little bit, it confuses me a lot as well. So please be careful when you use the less than stuff. So if M2 is less than or equal to 1000, this is the appropriate way. Then let's just change everything to less than, and change everything to less than, change everything to less than. So yeah, I think we are good now. I think it will work. So yeah, it will work. So let's apply everything. Okay. Okay, this one now, why it is showing NA is because this 2235 does not meet any requirement or any logical test here, because one, we said if it is less than or equal to 1000, say poor. If it is less than or equal to 14, say bad. If it is less than or equal to 18, say fair. If it is less than or equal to 2002, show well done. So we don't see anything that is, if it is, when it is greater than 2000. So we can change this to greater than, or write another logical test for this one, but let's just change this to greater than now. So if it is greater than or equal to, say this, so you see it's well done. Now this writing if is very complex. Like I will always tell people, it is very complex. Otherwise, it might work now, it might work for these four sellers, but in situation where you are writing for bigger data sets or something like that, where you have multiple criteria, it is always good to make sure that you understood what you typed. So let's go ahead and just change this to, instead of the last logical test, what we can do is, after these three, after evaluating these three logical tests, this 1, 2 and 3. Okay, if any of these thing is not true, if any of this thing is not true, you can now say well done. So this is better than writing a logical test. Sorry, I forgot to type. If M2 is now greater than, okay, sorry, that one is for if, sorry, I'm a little bit confused myself. So M2 is greater than 2000, or yeah, 18. It has to be in 18. What I'm trying to do is make sure that we cover a value between 18 and 2002. Remember what we had before was 2002. So, and we said greater than or equal to, sorry, making a mistake. So yeah, say well done. This is what we did before. So this should be M2. What am I doing? M2, M2, M2. So what's the issue? Greater than, yeah. Okay, let me just do Control Z and return our formula. So what I wanted to make sure we cover is between 18 and 2002. So let's say we have 19 to see if the formula. Now I'm going to alter this. Let's say we have 19. So it's showing well done. It's showing well done. Okay, this one says less than. But anyway, my main point is that when you are typing the if function, you have to be careful with how you arrange the range, so that you do not go out of, one does not go out of what you intend. But that's it with ifs. So we can now move to, we'll still come back to it when we are typing when we are doing other works. So now we are going to count and countif and countifs. So what count does is that um so in this cell you can use count to count okay, the number of values in this cell. So if you want to count, so you say count what number of values do we have in profit. So you say sales and profit. Yeah. Um when you type, when you insert something beside a table, it will add it to the table. So we should have done that here. So let me do the count here so that you know how to the table. So count the values inside sales and inside our profit. Yeah. So we have 172 values. So anywhere it is zero, it will not count it. That's just what the count does. Sometimes I don't even remember using count, but I just need you to know you can do that. Then there is count. Now what count can only do is the count function can only count values. I mean figures. So if you use it to do for location, which is text or string, it will not work. Let's try it. So count so go to sales and sellers, sales, sellers. So count it, it will show zero. The count function cannot does not work with text. But if you need to count text, I think there is CountA. So let's go ahead and use CountA. So there is count, yeah, there is CountA. So this one, it will count, this one can only count text, it cannot count values. So let's go ahead and do sales for sellers and yeah, 172. So this one can only, the count can only count values, the CountA can only count um value. Yeah. So CountA for text, count ordinary count for values. Now let's go to Countif. The Countif is just a replica of Sumif, but now instead of summing, just counts. So how many times did Whiskey um okay, how many times did Whiskey make sales? Let's just do that. So we have Whiskey here. Let's use the count. So equal to count if. So the range is sellers. So go to sales, then square bracket sellers, then close. Let me expand this so that you can see. Yeah. So the range is this, then the criteria is Whiskey. Okay. So let's close that. Yeah, is it correct? Yeah, it is. Okay, so Whiskey made sales 34 times. So let's apply the, okay, this is a good thing. Let's even check how many times they made sales. Okay, wow. Okay, so Whiskey made sales 34 times. Davido made sales 41 times and so on. So you can use this to say, okay, is Burna Boy lazy? Burna Boy and Whiskey, are they lazy? Why are they making sales 34 times? And okay, Olamide is making sales 66 times and so on. So that's what count does. Now Countif, of course, is just like some Countifs. It's just like, okay, the sum ifs as well when you have more than one criteria. So let's say we want to know how many times Whiskey made sales in Nigeria. So let's go ahead and change the and use the count if, which is equal to count ifs. Now we're using count ifs. So criteria range 1. The criteria range 1 is sellers. So sales sellers, then the criteria is under sellers, so the criteria is Whiskey, then criteria range 2, that's where we have our location. So sales location, then what's the criteria? Nigeria. This. So remember, we have to make this an absolute cell reference so that it does not shift downward. So press F4, and that's it. That's it. So okay, Wizkid made sales 13 times in Nigeria. Yeah. Okay, so 13 times, 9 times, 18 times, and so on. So this is Countif and Countifs for you. Wow, it's already 8:51. I was going to end this lecture by 9, but we've not gone far, and we really need to at least finish this whole outline so that we can move to working with real data as soon as possible. At latest, our next lecture, we should have finished everything. So now we are done with counties and everything. Now let's go to define names. Before I proceed, does anyone have question? Someone sent me DM failing to join. I really don't know why. Is there anyone I've not accepted? Nobody. So okay, let's go ahead. Remember, you can always message me on the group WhatsApp to ask questions. So let's go to define names. Now, what define name does is one of these things that makes our formula easier to read as well, just like the table. So the define name is just, let's just say, works like the table but in a different way. So let's say our profit is, I want to delete everything here so you can highlight everything and press delete on your system. So let's just sum the total sales. So if we want to sum everything here, remember I told you there are multiple ways to do this. You can select everything and click auto sum. You can just click alt on your system, is alt like this, then alt plus equal sign. So when you do this on your system, when you are here, you press alt, then with equal to sign to just type the formula out for you. So that's my way of doing auto sum. So now we know now that this is the total profit. So let's say we want to reference to total profit. Let's call this total profit. I just want to explain what the define name does. Okay, let's use this one. This one is perfect. Let's go ahead and use let's freeze this first. I've not tried freezing a table before. I told you how to do this in the last lecture so that we can always see the headings. So what we want to do is, this is our cost price. So let's calculate the total cost price. Alt equal to, this is the cost price. Then this is the sales price. So again, alt equal to, and that's our sales price. Now when you want to calculate, I think everybody knows this, that the profit is now equal to sales minus cost. At least your gross profit is equal to sales minus cost. So let me put this thing out. I don't want to rename it over there. So let's say this one is 17612.6. There's a reason I don't want to rename it in the table. 11097.9. So these are cost price, these are selling price. So let's rename this to, instead of D176, let's rename it to sales price, or let's just rename it to sales. So you right click and say define names, then you say what's the name, let's call it sales, yeah, let's call it, okay, selling price, yeah, let's just call it sales price. Now one thing about name when you want to rename a cell is that you cannot use you cannot use space. If you use space, it will give you error. You cannot use space. Just like other programming language, you cannot use sales. So what you can do is you can say sales underscore price. You cannot use this as well. What do they call it? You cannot use this. You can only use underscore. Yeah, I think underscore. So sales price. Otherwise, you can just say sales and start the other one in capital letter. So let's call this sales price. Then let's call this cost price. Define name. What is define name again? Okay, define name. So let's call it cost price. Now, if you want to calculate your profit, instead of saying sell D176 minus sell HC176, you can just say equal to cost price. So you see it's there, cost price minus, no, it should be selling price minus cost price. Selling sales price rather. Sales price minus cost price. So now this formula is very straightforward. Anybody seeing this formula will know, okay, it's trying to calculate the profit. So that's what divine name does. It's simple, but one thing is people don't know about this thing. So for accountant, if you're an accountant, it's very easy to just name this. Okay, these are our costs, these are our, just rename yourself. So anywhere you want to type your formula, you can just reference to it instead of saying cell, looking for cells up and down. So let's move ahead to Vlookup. Okay, I actually have something to do by 9, but I quickly want to go through Vlookup. Okay, well, because there's no way I can go through Vlookup, Hlookup in few minutes, but let's see what we can do. I want to let's finish these two, then call it a day. It's actually white, so we need time, but let's do something about it. Now to do this, to use Vlookup, I'll open a new data set because this data set is not completely suitable for what I want to do. So let me find, I have this sample data set. Okay, I have sample data set somewhere. So these are just random sample data set. This I collected this data set sometimes last year from I think Wikipedia, or this is election results for 2019. So I think I collected it from INEC website or Wikipedia. I've forgotten. But anyway, let's know what Vlookup does. Now, let's say you have this. Let me just paste everything here. We have these states, and Abia, the 36 states in Nigeria, including FCT. Then you want to know where each the zones that each of these states comes from. So let me insert something downward, shift cell down. Okay, so you want to know the zones that these states come from. Now you might be thinking that okay, we have it already, but there are, in real case scenario, there are some times where you have it somewhere and you need to retrieve the zones of each state. So we now want to go to um this data set to retrieve the zones and religion of these states. Please, before we continue, this religion is complete. Please disregard it. I just came up with it for this purpose, for the purpose of this for the purpose of tutorial. Please, it is not in any way correct or anything. So there's no traditionally somewhere. So please disregard it. So now what we will do is, I think I have a data set for this one. Let me just, okay, I have a data set I did for this instead of using this one. Aha. So let's just copy this and paste it somewhere. We have to paste copy paste it here. Okay. I don't know why it was like that, but so let's move on. Now we want to get the zones, then religion, then what else? Okay, so we'll do this thing two ways. So there's one called Vlookup. Vlookup. So we use Vlookup and Xlookup so that you can see the difference. Vlookup. Then we do one with Xlookup. So zones and religion. Alright. So let me tell you about this lookup before we proceed. Not this. Close this. I want to tell you about. I want to explain lookup to you before we even proceed at all. Okay. So we have Vlookup and Hlookup. What Vlookup means, vertical lookup. So vertical is this, is like the column. Then horizontal is this, like the rows. So we have horizontal lookup. So whenever you have values in a column, then you want to look up for a corresponding value. You might not get it now, but when we work on it, you get. You want to look up for a corresponding value in a column, yeah, in a column. Then use something called Vlookup. Now, when you want to look up for a value in horizontal row, in a row rather, then you use the Hlookup. But it is very rare that you need to look up value in a row. So most people, they don't really focus on Hlookup. It's not like it, yeah, you use it very well, but it is very rare. In most cases, people use Vlookup. Now, what is Xlookup? Xlookup is a new function in Excel. If you are using 20, the old versions from 2016, yeah, I'm sure 2016 does not have Xlookup function inside it. 2019, I'm not sure, but 2021, the one I sent to the group, and if you are using Office 365, you definitely have access to Xlookup. So what Xlookup does is, Xlookup is just, I think Microsoft brought Xlookup to replace Vlookup and Hlookup. Now normally I should just teach you Xlookup and forget about Vlookup and Hlookup, but you will not appreciate Xlookup if you don't know the limitations of Vlookup and Hlookup. So basically, people don't use Xlookup again, or well, I want to believe that people don't use Xlookup again, like myself. I don't use Vlookup and Hlookup rather. We use Xlookup now, except for people who don't know about it. Now the syntax is somehow simpler and everything. So let's go back to our new workbook and do something about it. So like I said, we want to retrieve the name of the zones for this Nigerian state, but we have it already here, so we want to retrieve it here. Let me quickly do something so that you know that this thing, let me sort this thing in descending order. Let me sort it. So that's continue with current selection. So I want you to know that it's not in the same, it does not align. So now we want to start with Vlookup quickly. So Vlookup is press equal to type Vlookup. So now, as always, there is a little guide that will tell you, that will explain the formulas to you and tell you what to do next. So lookup value. Our lookup value is the first one, which is Zamfara in this case. So our lookup value is this. Remember, is if you type Zamfara like this, it will work. Zamfara. Why not to spell it? Zamfara. It will work. Again, Excel is not case sensitive, so you can type in small capital letter. But then you have to type Zamfara, Yobe, Taraba, and everything. So this is why I always say it is bad approach to type. Instead, you can always reference. So Zamfara, Then table array. Table array means the entire table. The entire table. So if we had converted this to a table, it would have been so easier. But since we've not converted it to table, I want to show you how to do it without table. So we select everything. We select everything. Now, how am I selecting everything? I'm holding Control and Shift. So now I just want to remove the total anyway. So yeah, then so we've selected our table array. That's what the basically table. Then column index. Column index is this is column. Then everybody knows what index means. Index is numbers of, okay, this column 1, this column 2, this column 3. So that's column index. Column index number. So this column 1, column 2, column 3. So it is asking you which column number do you want me to return values from. So in this case, we want to return from column 2. So you type 2, then comma, then approximate match or exact match. In most cases, it is exact match. So you either type false or click on it and press tab. So you either tab it or type it out. So if anyone is okay. So false. Then you close your brackets. Bam. So it's showing that Zamfara is from northwest. So if we apply this thing downward, we have issue with our formulas because we've not selected it to, we've not converted it to absolute cell reference. Remember, it's always when your data is not table, when you've not converted it to table, you need to convert it to absolute cell reference. So use your $sign F4 and no. Alright, what did I do? Should be yeah. So northwest. So now when we apply the formula, everything is okay. Remember, you can also double click the edge. So what this thing has done is that it has retrieved the zones for these states from this table. So whatever is here for Bayelsa will be here for Bayelsa. So in this case, Yobe is northeast, and these things are correct anyway. So Yobe is northeast. So that is how it works. So if you want to use same Vlookup for religion, then you go ahead and say Vlookup. Okay, let's sorry, let's do it for zone. Why is because the next one I want to do. Okay, maybe we just create another one. I want to do it with table too, so that you see how easier it is. So let's go ahead and do for religion at first. So go ahead and do Vlookup. Then lookup value is Zamfara. Then table array is, don't forget, it is just your table without the total. Yeah. Then comma column index. This time around it is the third column because that's where we have our religion. So column index number is 3. Then exact false, which is exact match. So you can click on it and press tab or type false, whichever one. So so it's saying they are Muslim. Again, please, I'm repeating this. These things are not correct. They are just for this lecture, for the purpose of this lecture. So that's how you retrieve. So now let's see how it is done with Xlookup. So in Xlookup, it is a little bit strange. The syntax is different, but I believe in Xlookup it is simpler. So let's go ahead with Xlookup again. If you are not using the latest version of Microsoft, which is 2021, yeah, I don't know if 2019 has it. I think it has it. If you are using 2019, 21, and Microsoft 365, then you have Xlookup. If you are using other versions, you don't. So Xlookup. Now lookup value. Yes, our lookup value is Zamfara, definitely. Then lookup array. So instead of selecting the entire table, now you are saying lookup value is Zamfara in this place. So just go ahead and select the column only. Now you don't have to select the entire table. Then comma, then oh yes. So you are saying go to look for Zamfara in this place. Then it's asking for return array. What should I return? Of course, the zones. So you say this to the last one. Yes. Then that's everything for now. So you see how I think this one is simple. There's no need to type in false match or exact match or approximate match. So this one will go ahead and do northwest. Then remember we have to change to absolute cell reference, which is F4 and F4, F4 and F4. So we can now apply the formula. Okay, the drop down does not work with when you double click. I've noticed, I don't know why, it does not work with Xlookup. So you have to drag. You have to drag. Okay, since we did not change this to we did not change this to absolute cell reference, that's why we're having this no NA values, this error. So please always the best approach is just to change your data set to a table. So you don't have to do this F4 and F4 this. So choice, yeah, everything is correct now. So now we've done for Xlookup. Now the beauty of Xlookup is um now when we want to do for religion, you don't really need to type the formula again. Just go back to this formula and extend the range to zones, and you can just combine the range. So it will be from B1 to C38. So just change this to C, which means I've highlighted both religion and zones. So what this will do is look for Zamfara in this red zone state, then return these two values. So let's look up, we just return the two values for you. So you see it's now here, Muslim is here. So we cannot drag and okay, we can only drag. So you see, so let's see if they are correct anyway. Okay, Muslim, Muslim, Christian, Christian. So all these things. Now, one thing about this formula is that this one, remember we did not type this formula, we just extended it from here. If you notice this place, you cannot, there is nothing there. There is no formula here. This, whatever happens here is just a reflection of whatever is happening here. So you cannot delete anything here because there is nothing there in the real sense of it. So you cannot delete. It will keep coming back because anything here is just a reflection. Let me just use that word. Is a reflection. But this is the beauty of Xlookup. Now, one more thing about Xlookup is that when you use Vlookup, in case Vlookup does not have feature that will tell you that okay, oh, I looked. In case we don't have Zamfara, for instance, Vlookup will just show you error that I did not see Zamfara in this table. But this place, you can give a condition for it. So let's go back to our formula and edit it. So you now type comma. I told you that whenever you are typing a formula in Excel, this anything in any criteria in this square brackets or yeah square bracket is an optional criteria. You don't necessarily need to type it. It is not compulsory. But other ones before the square bracket, they are compulsory. So now if not found, that is, what should I say if I did not find your Zamfara or Yobe or Taraba? So you can say no state. Remember, it has to be in string. It has to be in quotes rather. So that's it. Then you can close this thing. Now you will not see the if not found now because the whole thing is found. So let's say we don't have Zamfara. I should have deleted that one. I should have deleted it. So you see it's saying no states. is telling you that no state, because it has looked for Zamfara here and there's no Zamfara. I deleted it just now. So there's no Zamfara. It's saying Xlookup is giving you the option of no state found. We can edit it to no state found actually. But Vlookup is telling you that error. So that's the beauty of Xlookup. Xlookup is an upgrade on Vlookup. So that's the difference between the two. So let's talk about Hlookup so that it won't be we did not talk about. Hlookup is just exactly what we did with Vlookup, but instead of looking downward, we are looking to this side. So that's just the meaning. So let me see if we can find let me delete everything here. Let me delete everything here. So let me show you one simple trick in Excel as well. Yeah, in Excel. So this data set, we have it towards down like this. Suppose you want to change it to, we call it transpose. You want region to be like this: region, zones, states. Then you want Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom to go like this. So we call it transpose. If we I remember this in matrix, we did it in matrix SS1 or something like that. Transpose of matrix. So you want to make the column row, then you want to make the row columns. So let's do that quickly so that we can use it for Xlookup. So so you say equal to transpose. Hope you can see transpose. So when it is selected, you just press tab. You don't need to type everything. So it's asking for array. Array means table or the range. So you can just select everything. Yeah, this Alpha is not that I will have to return it back. Then close it. So I just select everything and press enter. You see it has returned. So we now have state like this. So this column has become this row. Then this column has become the second row. Then just like that. So what we can do is, let's say we want to find let me copy this. Let me just use one, Abia. Let me just type Abia here. So let's say you want to find Abia and Adamawa. I don't want to waste time on this. So if you want to find their zones and everything, so you say equal to Hlookup, then lookup value is Abia, then table array is this. Yeah, table array is that. So you come back to your formula, then row index number. The first one was column index number, but this one is for row, so it's asking for row index number. So the row we want to return is the row 2. Remember, it's row 2. We want to return from zones. So if it is religion, we say row 3, but we want to return from 2, then first, which is exact match. Then you close it. Southeast. So the same thing for this organ. This one now, the issue with this one, you still have to, okay, what did we not do? We did not change this to H5. Okay, so this one you just edit it to, yeah, it should be I5, should be correct. So okay, this one should be in, yeah, we did not change it to absolute. Yeah, so that's how it works. I don't know if you got it. So but instead of doing Xlookup, we still give you this without so Xlookup can perform the function of both Hlookup and Vlookup. So let's quickly use Xlookup for this. So Xlookup is Xlookup. Lookup value is H5, which is Abia, then lookup array. So lookup array is your state, remember, is from here to here. So we can remove the last one. Then back to your formula, then save, then return array, which is zones. Remember, you can pick the two actually. So it means it will return the zones and the religion. Yeah. Then back to, that's it. So you can have if not found and all those things, but in this case it's not necessary. So what happened? So say h2, how is it saying? Yeah. Where is okay, yes. Should be AS, should be okay, AS2, sorry. This is why it's always good to use table. I don't know why it's showing that. Value should be up here in, okay. Don't you have, I don't know why it shouldn't be. Let me delete it altogether and start over. Sometimes it happens. So equal to Xlookup. Lookup value is this, comma, lookup array is this, without the zero. Then return array is this, yes. But that should be all. Something is not right. I don't get it. Should be okay. I will get back to you on this. I don't know why it's happening like that. Normally it should work. I'll get back to you on this. But anyway, that's the difference between Xlookup and Vlookup. So to me, I always feel like Xlookup is an upgrade on Vlookup. So let's close this and go back to our main table. So we've done this. We'll still use them, of course. So we see data validation. Okay, let's quickly go through data validation before 9:30, then we call it a day. So what data validation does is that in a cell range, in a particular cell or a particular column, you can you can format it in such a way that it is only what you want in that cell that can be recorded. So if you want this thing to be, you don't want people to type figures here, you don't want them to type text alphabet, so you can use data validation to make sure that whatever comes here is figure. So it will be difficult for people to type. Then you can make a drop list so that people cannot even type. When they click this cell, they will see a drop down, then they select from whatever you've put there. So let's use this cell for quick evaluation of that. So when you want to do data validation, you click the particular cell, come to data, then in the data tools section, you see this data validation. So when you open the shell, you click data validation. So you change it from any value. This is the default setting. You change it from any value to, maybe you want whole number, you want decimal, you want list. List is where you now have the drop down and all those things. So you want this thing to be, you can have any value, which is the default. You can have whole number, you can have decimal, list. So we'll talk about list, but the decimal, whole number, I think they are straightforward. You want this to be date, or you want it to be time, or you want to maintain a specific length. So you can say between 5 and 10. So you don't want the length to be less than 5 and you don't want it to be greater than 10. So you can say, so when you say whole number, you can use between as well. Between 10 to 50. So let's quickly use whole number to see something. So we want the, let's say we want this thing to be age. So between the age of 18 and maximum of 40. Then you can come to input message. So this input message is like when they click the cell, before you type anything, the message will just show that okay, this is what we are expecting from you inside the cell. So you can say, please please input your age. Then you can come to error alert. So error alert is like when the wrong text, in the settings you said 18 to 40. So suppose someone puts 17 or 41. So this is where the error alert comes in. So you can say okay, warning or information, whatever one you want to use. So this will be the sign. So let's use warning. Then this thing will come, age input is out of range. Please enter a valid age. Yeah. So you see this little format that we've done now, the please input your age. When you input the wrong age, it will show you this error message and so on. So we can only input between 18. So this thing can only accept between 18 and so yeah, that's it. So you can also ignore blank or whatever. So if you check this, it means when the cell is blank, no problem. But if you uncheck it, it means the cell must contain it must contain a value. So let's just check it. It can be blank. So fine. Now you see the cell has been, when we select the cell, it's showing please input your age. So let's say I put 18, no issue. So if I put 17, you see the error message that is saying age input is out of range. Please enter a valid age. Continue. Yes, you can always continue. So yeah, I think that's the issue with when you use warning instead of stop. So if we had used stopped in that if we had used stop, I think it will not allow it. That's what it does. So let's say we type 17. Yeah, 17, it will never allow it. So that's what stop means. You say retry. You have to give retry till you get it right. So if you use warning, warning will say okay, if you still want to go ahead. So stop, it will not accept that 17. So if you type, so you say retry, you can type maybe 40. Okay, it's okay. So if you type 41, it will not accept it. So that's data validation. Data validation. So please, we have 1 minute left. So please, if you have any question, you can just drop it in the group chat, or you can now unmute your mic and ask questions. Have I moved? Okay. Please, you can ask questions. If there's no question, I think that's the end of the lecture for today. As we go forward, I'm hoping we can have this lecture twice um, in a week to hasten things up. So until then, until further notice to the group, I'll let you know as it goes. So if you have any question, you can drop it after the lecture, then maybe we'll see to it. So this video hopefully will be able to retrieve it and upload it for people who might need it as well. So that's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining. See you guys next week. Thank you.